Mohawk Indian who went by the English name of Joseph Brand. He was on the British side in the American Revolution. The third, he was king when England lost the American colonies, but he was the most popular of the Hanoverian kings who had come from Germany, and he was the first one who was fluent in English. Of Arthur Wellesley, 1st Duke of Wellington, 52. This is by Thomas Lawrence. We saw a lot of portraits by Thomas Lawrence in Windsor in the castle. His defeating of Napoleon, the Battle of Waterloo, he became prime minister. It was unfinished at the time of the artist's death, but we still know he was an Irishman and very active in trying to get freedom for the Irish from the English. First Irish member of Parliament, and he did get more rights for the Catholics, like to vote and stuff like that. Sir Walter Scott, quite the writer, author. 23 novels. Waverley outsold all the others. Rob Roy has never been out of print. He became very wealthy, but he lost his money in a financial collapse of 1825. Robert Clive, very involved in India, and this is taken after the Battle of Plessy in 1757. Treaty they signed. Mr. Clive here got a lot of money, and so did the British East India Company. Portrait of Benjamin Franklin. He lived here many times as a representative of the colonies till they treated him poorly. He stomped off and became obviously one of the founders of the United States. Portrait of George Washington shows some of the things that he did in founding the United States. William II, he came over from the Netherlands, and this, well, he had a connection. This was his wife, Mary II. Eldest daughter of James II and his first wife, Anne Hyde. William of Orange at the age of 15. James II, he was Catholic, mainly Protestant, and he was Catholic. Caused problems, and Mary invaded, kicked him off the throne, and took over and lived the rest of his life in France, which was Catholic. Force was very active in the anti-slavery movement in England. Britain, slavery and abolition. Parliament ended the slave trade in 1807. They had been very involved in that for a long time, but plantation slavery continued in the Caribbean colonies. Slavery was abolished in 1833. The government paid about 20 million pounds compensation to slave owners. Our slave owners after the Civil War didn't get anything, but then I don't have a problem with that at all. A portrait of Frederick Douglass was made in 2020, but was based on an earlier painting. Of course, he was very influential in the anti-slavery movement after he had escaped from slavery. Even met in, I think, he met Abraham Lincoln in the White House. First black man to have that on. John Wesley, the founder of Methodist religion, traveled to the colonies at that time and did a lot of religious ceremonies and got people to join the Methodist Church. Named John Wilkes and his daughter Polly, they were involved in additional rights for English people in the Reform Bill of 1832, redrew electoral boundaries and extended the rights of middle-class men to voting. But many people still didn't get to vote, and women's suffrage had to wait till 1928 to get voting rights. Thomas Paine, He wrote the pamphlet Common Sense in 1776 when he was living in Virginia. And then he wrote The Rights of Man, defending the French Revolution. Wollstonecraft, she was very strong in the women's suffrage movement, but she died in childbirth. But her daughter Mary, who became a famous author and wrote Frankenstein. John Churchill, the first Duke of Marlborough. This is Queen Charlotte, wife of George III. George IV, he was on the throne for only about 10 years. King William IV, he only ruled for a few years. 1850, Home Secretary, founded the Metropolitan Police. Under Victoria, he became Prime Minister as Lord Melbourne. Portrait of Prince Albert, husband of Victoria. Nice portrait of a young Queen Victoria. She's considered to be the first programmer, knowledge way before her time. Her father was Lord Byron, and her mother kind of was married to Lord Byron, but they didn't live together. And Charles Babbage, who was also big into math, became her mentor, computing, and they invented a computing machine. This was in the 1850s. Taylor Coleridge, most famous for The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, late 1700. The poet John Keats, 17. William Turner, a noted painter in his own right. Here's a portrait of him. Here's Sir Walter Scott. Wrote a lot of famous things. Rob Roy, Ivanhoe, were bestsellers. He's in his study at his home on the River Tweed. C. Shelley, he and his wife Mary Shelley were noted authors. He drowned in an accident and is about age 30 off the coast in Italy. In the Romantic period, he evidently enjoyed the company of men and women, and that was forbidden. And he escaped from England, spent most of the rest of his life on the continent where they were more tolerant. Mary Shelley, she wrote Frankenstein when she was 18 years old. Self-portrait of Joshua Reynolds, the famous English painter. John Stuart, the third Earl of Bute. He was a prime minister, and here he is wearing the robes of the Order of the Garter. Adam Duncan, the first Viscount Duncan, naval officer and hero. The French Revolutionary Wars, 1792 to 1802. We have Horatio Nelson, great naval commander. He won the Battle of Trafalgar off the coast of Spain, and one arm buried in St. Paul's Cathedral. William Pitt, 17. He kind of liked the Americans, but he was prime minister twice, and he died early at the age of 46. George Frederick Handel, famous for writing The Messiah. Ira Aldridge, 1807 to 1867, the first noted black actor on the British stage. He was born a free man in America.